Okay, good morning. We're up to Siman Reish Pei Dalad. We're talking about the halachas of Haftorah, Dinei Haftorah Ubircheseho. Says the Mechaba Aleph, Maftirin benovi me'inyona shel parsha. We learn from the Novi something connected to a theme of the parsha. Ve'ein poichasin michof alaf psukim. And in the Haftorah there should not be less than 21 psukim. Elim kein solik inyona bebotz mehochi. Unless the connection, the theme that has finished. Then, in those situations, you can go less, but strictly speaking, you need 21 psukim. Kagoin, and when is there a situation when solik inyona, when the theme has finished? Kagoin erle seichem sefu al zivchechem, that Haftorah. Says the Ramah, v'davka b'shabes bo inan chof alaf psukim. That's when you need 21 psukim, shleish psukim l'kol echad min ha'krib. You have 3 psukim per aliyah. But beyond when you only have 5 aliyahs, Sagi betesvav psukim, it's enough to have 15 psukim in the Haftorah. The whole takana of Haftorah is only for a community, for tzibur, after they've done kriyas Haftorah. But without, in a tzibur, after kriyas Haftorah, then you don't lane the Haftorah with brachas before and after. Avol belay bracha shari. So if a person finds himself without a minyan, so you can name the Haftorah, but just not with brachas. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah Aleph. Now this is very interesting, this whole issue of whether you need to lane Haftorah from a klaf, or from a... So this is where it comes from. This is what the Mishnah Berurah says. Kosav halavush, Tzmati al shalero isi nagin lichtev Haftorahs kedin sefer. I'm surprised, says the Lavush, that you don't see people write the Haftorah from a proper sefer, like a sefer Torah. Ki ha'inir li she'en yotzin klal b'kriyas Haftorah b'chumushim hanitfosin. Seems to me, says the Bush, that using the back of a chumash for the Haftorah is not sufficient. Ki she'en nichtavim b'chol hilchos sefer Torah Megillah, because of course that wasn't written; it was just printed, and it wasn't written in all the halachas like a sefer Torah or a Megillah needs. Va'tazu mogen Avram yishvu ha'minhag. They justify it. Usvir lehu da'af shehu al yedei defus. That even though it was printed, v'gam al hanaya shaloi beglida, that it was on regular paper, it wasn't on parchments, and it wasn't rolled and stitched and everything, mutzat inan zeh. For Haftorah purposes, a printed version is okay. Umikol mokum das hamogen Avram the tzorach liyas Haftorah mitoich novi sholem hanidfas. Okay, you don't need like a sefer Torah, but there should at least be one big sefer of all the Haftorahs. And not just sort of it needs to be the whole of Sefer Yeshaya, and not just the Haftorah of this particular Sedra. V'chein gam kein das hoel Rabbi ein shom umikol mokum im ein lohem rak Haftorah hanitfes b'chumash. But if that's all you've only got the Haftorah which is at the back of your chumash. Yesh lismeich lehakel, we can be makel shelo levatel kriyas Haftorah. Not otherwise, you might not get to read the Haftorah. That ideally every tzibur should have a proper neviim which are nichtovim beklaf and kedin. She'oz gam hashemes nichtovim b'kedusha, because then even all the shemes Hashem are written properly b'kedusha. Mashenkin kishu alanai hanidfas. But if it's on a printed chumash, you haven't got that. V'ayin be'eli rabba. V'chein hinig hagan. The grob b'ki losoi v'cheizin spashet zeh b'har b'kilis Yisrael v'ashrei chelkom. So obviously it's a preference to have a proper klaf for the Novi, and I think it's becoming more popular. I think you see it in more shuls. The difficulty is that it's going to be hard to find the Golker, because if you're reading from a klaf, you're going to have to get Yossi to do it. But otherwise you're a bit stuck. Interestingly, just the back, he says, this is, he just quotes the Chaznish. This is in front of just a short one in number 1. He says, a Chaznish Kosov. So what have we said? That preferably, certainly the Levush is very particular on it, that you should have a klaf like the din of a Sefer Torah. You should have the whole Novi, the whole of a Sefer Yeshaya there, and then you should find the place and do it from there. Second best is to have the whole of Tanakh, a whole book of the entire Novi. And then what most people do, if you like, is that just to have the Haftorahs, the individual Haftorahs, at the back of the Chumash. But the Chaznish, he says in the back here, he says, Im ein letzibur novi miklaf, if you haven't got this klaf, Ein hevdel bein imkarim a novi shalem or b'chumish. It makes no difference whether you've got the whole sefer of that novi or you're just doing it from the back of a chumish. Only sefer shalem and a kashinikra beglila. There's only a mile of shalem if there's a whole, it's done properly with a klaf. But to have a whole printed book of novi as opposed to a chumish with the novi at the back, he says the Chazon says there's no chiluk, even though the Mishnah Berurah says there is. Okay, benovi says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton base va'atam. Now, why is it? Why is there a minhag or a takana to lay in the Haftorah? Mipnei shepam achas. That's I'm on the top of the next page now. Shepam achas gozru gezer l'Yisrael shelo yasku b'Torah. One time. In history, they made a gezerah that we can't read from the Torah in public. For Karban Avim Shiva Ubar Chaleim. So the Chazal instituted that we read from the Novi and we call up 7 people. Keneged Hashiva Shoyitzrichim La'alos V'Likris B'Torah, corresponding to the 7 aliyahs that you learn from the Sedra. V'lo Yukarin Kol Echad Pachas Mishlesh Pesukim, and each one had not less than 3 pesukim. V'Ari Bein Kulam Chafad Pesukim, and therefore you had a total of at least 21. Lochach afal pisha gezer bottle, and therefore, even though thankfully the gezerah was bottle, minhag le bottle, the minhag has not been cancelled. Mishum hachi tiknu sha'amafti yikra benovi le pachas mechavara psukim, and therefore the minhag has continued that you don't have less than 21 psukim. V'yeker betchila, bater tchila. If they cover the Torah, we still lane we lane Torah, and that comes first because of cover the Torah. Or commission kusavna b'simen reish pei beis b'shemon mishvur sif katan kavches v'varcha mafti sheva brachas. You then, when it comes to the Haftorah, the maftir is in total going to call 7 brachas. Why? The guy who gets maftir, he does the bracha before and after his aliyah, and then when it comes to Haftorah, there's another 5 brachas. Achas al novi lefoneha, va'arba lachareha. So you've got a total of 7 brachas. 2 for the maftir, and 5 for the Haftorah. Keneged Shiva Sheyikra B'Torah, corresponding to the 7 brachas that are the 7 aliyahs for the Torah. Okay, Avol B'Lav Hachi, that the Ramah finished off and said that you only do the Haftorah with the brachas if you've got a minyan, but otherwise you can do the Haftorah but just without the brachas. Kagoin Shelo Ha'olam Sefer Torah Likris Ba. For example, if there wasn't Kriyas HaTorah, and therefore you can do the Haftorah but just without the brachas. If you're laning and then it turns out that the Sefer Torah was possible, nevertheless you can still, in that situation, since you laned, then you can still do the Haftorah with the brachas before and after. If there's no Eruv and you can't bring the Chumash to the Beis HaKnesses to do the Haftorah, so what do you do? Let's say you've got a minyan in a certain place, and everyone says, oh my gosh, we haven't got a Chumash to do the Haftorah. We've laid Kriyas HaTorah, but my Novi is at home somewhere. Go all of you, take the minyan and go to the place so that you can do Haftorah. And even though you're not in the same place, you can, in that situation, you can still do the brachas for the Haftorah before and afterwards. Okay, so therefore 2 important things. Number 1, the preference, if possible, the hidur of laning the Haftorah from a klaf. If not from a klaf, at least according to the Mishnah Berurah, then to lane the whole novi from a printed version of one whole sefer of novi. And if not, to do what we can do, we use a chumash, the back of that. The Chazon Ish says no chiluk. Once it's not in the klaf, then there's no chiluk between a whole sefer of a novi, the whole printed sefer of a novi, or the back of a chumash. And then the second thing is the background of how we come about to do the Haftorah. Let's just do Beis and Gimel very quickly. Im Chal Rosh Chodesh b'Shabbos. This is very interesting. If Rosh Chodesh falls on a Shabbos, ein hamaftim maskish Rosh Chodesh klal. I don't know if you notice this, but in the brachas of the Haftorah, Rosh Chodesh does not get a mention. So you don't mention it. V'yesh omrim she'afal pi she'ena maski b'chasim she'rosh chodesh maskirin so b'tzecha bracha she'emes yom ha'manoach hazeh v'yom Rosh Chodesh zeh v'aminik kisvar Rosh Chodesh. We don't do that. We don't mention it at all when it falls on Rosh Chodesh. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Dil Mali Shabbos ain't Novi Rosh Chodesh, because it's only because it's Shabbos that you're saying this, this Haftorah, because on a regular Rosh Chodesh there is no Haftorah. But Kriyas HaNovi who rak mishum Shabbos, and therefore you don't mention Rosh Chodesh at all. Interestingly, in footnote number 9, another fun fact is that Shabbos Chol Hamoed Pesach also you don't mention Pesach. because because each day of Sukkot you bring different karbonos, and therefore it's a special. And you mentioned on Shabbos Chol Hamoed Sukkot, you mentioned Sukkot, but Shabbos Chol Hamoed Pesach you don't mention that. That's in footnote number 9. Okay, let's just do Gimel, then we'll finish. It's very important when you hear the Haftorah, the person who does it, you should say Amen to his brachas. Before and after, that's 5 brachas, 1 before, 4 after. And then we know there's a very important concept of mer brachas b'chol yom. Shabbos is always very tricky because you haven't got the Shemoneh Esrei and you haven't got all the meals and all the rest of it. So therefore, you're going to always struggle on Shabbos. Says the Mechaber over here, have in mind that the brachas of the Haftorah and you've got 5 in the bag. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sorach lechavim v'alkein ha-mitzvah al ha'olam shivocha b'kol ram. Make sure the guy who does it, when you make the brachas, you should do it with a loud voice. K'dei she'kol ha'kal yishmu v'yuchlu la'anos amen. Just very interesting. He says it's the Korban B'Torah and the Mafta, so it's more than 5. 5 is just for the Haftorah. Then you've got all the brachas for the Aliyahs. In footnote number 10, he quotes the Mishnah Berurah in earlier on, who says that that's only b'shas hatchak that you can count this. Here, the Mechaber and the Mishnah Berurah make no reference to b'shas hatchak. They seem to suggest that lechatchila, saying Amen to the brachas of the Aliyahs for Kriyas HaTorah and for Haftorah counts as your minyan of 100. There it says only b'shas hatchak if you can't quite make it up. But either way, one should try and have it in mind to make sure that you get your 100 brachas. Okay.